What will happen when a man who lost both parents young chooses to live alone in a quiet forest? One night, a lost girl shows up, led by a wild animal from his past. What she says changes everything. This story takes a turn you won't see coming. The story begins with a boy named John. He lost his mother in a car accident when he was still very young. After that day, his world was never the same. He grew up without a mother's hug, without her voice, without her love. Maybe that's why John became quiet and distant. He didn't talk much, didn't make many friends, and never got married. John lived with his father after his mother passed away. His father was kind and tried to keep John happy, but something was always missing. A father's love is strong, but it's different from a mother's gentle care. Then one day, something painful happened. His father suddenly got very sick. It all happened so fast that John couldn't even understand what was going on. The doctors couldn't help and just asked him to sign some papers. His father was gone. In just a few moments, John lost the only person left in his life. He was all alone again, with only silence around him. After the funeral, John felt completely alone. The house his parents left behind was quiet. Too quiet. He sat in silence, thinking about what to do next. Maybe he should move to the city, he thought. But then what? He had no college degree, no family waiting for him, and no friends to help. Finding a job or even someone to talk to felt almost impossible. So he decided to stay in the village. Life in the village was simple, but lonely. In summer, John spent his days herding cattle in wide, empty fields. He watched over them from sunrise to sunset, speaking to no one. In winter, he went into the forest alone to hunt. His father had taught him how to track animals, stay safe, and respect the woods. That skill became part of his life. John often remembered his father's words. Even when life was hard, his father never gave up. He believed John would have a better life. Slowly, those words gave John strength to keep going, even in silence. One morning, John woke up early and got ready to go hunting. He reached for his father's old gun, took a small bag, and stepped outside. The air was cold, but he didn't mind. The forest was a place he knew better than any road or street. He had walked its paths since he was a boy. To him, it felt more like home than the house he lived in. Deep in the forest stood his grandfather's old thatched cabin. John liked staying there more than in the village. The little hut, lit by a flickering kerosene lamp, was quiet and calm. He would make tea, eat a bit of sugar, and sit with a book. Books were his escape. They gave him stories, dreams, and a world beyond his own. He had a small shelf filled with magazines and old stories. Sometimes he wrote slow songs and sang them softly, dreaming of singing to a son someday. The forest never made him feel afraid. It was fair and honest. His father once told him the forest treats everyone the same, whether good or bad. That thought stayed with John. He knew every trail, every hidden spot, and a secret spring where the water was always cold and clear. That little spring was his special place, his secret. But sometimes the sadness was too much, especially during the hot summers, when the village felt too noisy and empty. One evening, feeling lonelier than ever, John decided to go to the cabin in the forest. It was already getting late, and he didn't have much time. John grabbed his gun and rushed down the trail, hoping to make it before nightfall. As he rounded a bend, something caught his eye. A lynx lying still across the path. It wasn't moving. It had been shot. John's heart sank. A few steps away, he heard a soft sound, a faint moan. Moving the bushes aside, he found a lynx cub, no older than a month, trying to hide. The mother, hurt and close to death, had carried her baby as far as she could. John felt a deep sadness, not just for the lynx, but for the little cub left all alone. He knew that kind of pain. Losing his mother when he was young, he understood what it felt like to be alone. Without thinking, John picked up the tiny cub and carried it back to the cabin. He gently placed it in the corner, gave it some milk, and settled beside it on the floor. "What should I name you?" he asked. He thought for a moment, but couldn't decide on the perfect name. Said, "Rex." The little lynx didn't seem to mind. It looked up at him with curious, trusting eyes. That night, the cub slept beside John. It shivered a little as it dreamed, maybe of its mother. John watched the tiny creature, feeling an unexpected bond. It was like they were both lost souls who had finally found each other. Days turned into weeks. Rex grew bigger, stronger, and more playful. John built a large wooden enclosure next to the cabin where the lynx could run freely when they weren't out in the forest. But even then, the wild was Rex's true home. John didn't visit the village much anymore. He enjoyed the quiet life with Rex. It had been so long since he had someone by his side. He spent his days hunting, picking berries, and gathering mushrooms. Life felt simple, peaceful. They shared quiet moments, reading books, singing songs, watching the stars, and caring for each other. It was a life full of small, happy moments. But John knew that Rex couldn't stay with him forever. He always understood this was going to happen. As Rex grew older, he spent more time in the forest. One day, while walking through the woods, Rex came across another lynx, a beautiful female. The female lynx followed Rex, and when John stepped outside the cabin, he saw them together. In that moment, John realized it was time for Rex to go. The next day, when John returned to the cabin, Rex was gone. After that, Rex never came back. The forest had called him home. John missed him, but he understood. Wild animals need their freedom. Huh, John sighed one night. Even the lynx found a partner, and here I am, still alone. Years went by. John grew older. He still stayed in the cabin, hunted, read books, and watched the forest change with the seasons. He often thought about Rex. He wondered where he was, if he was still alive, and if he had a family of his own now. The memories of Rex stayed with him, but life went on. Then, one autumn evening, something strange happened. John was inside, going through some old magazines when he heard soft footsteps outside. Looking up, he saw a young woman step out of the trees and into the clearing. She looked scared, tired, and completely lost. Their eyes met, and without saying a word, the woman ran forward and collapsed in front of him, tears streaming down her face. She was crying silently, shaking, and John quickly rushed outside to help her. Inside the cabin, she could barely speak, but after a few moments, she started to explain. She had gotten lost in the forest hours ago. She didn't know where she was or how to get back. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, she saw something that surprised her. A lynx. She was terrified at first, but the lynx didn't harm her. It didn't even growl or hiss. Instead, it simply walked ahead of her, slow and steady, guiding her through the trees. "I followed it," she said softly. "It led me right to your cabin." John's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "That lynx," he said, his voice quiet. "Might be the one I raised? Rex. I haven't seen him in years." The woman's name was Shania. She smiled, still wiping away the last of her tears. "And to think I was scared of him," she said with a laugh. "He saved me." John smiled back. "He has good taste," he said, patting her head gently. That night, Shania stayed in the cabin. One night turned into 2, then 3. She helped John with small tasks around the house, listened to his songs, and read his books. She even tried hunting with him. They spent their time together talking, laughing, and learning about each other. Slowly, the loneliness in John's heart began to fade. As the days passed, their bond grew stronger. They fell in love. Eventually, Shania decided to stay in the forest. She felt like she belonged there, with John. Together, they built a life in the peaceful woods, one filled with love, music, books, and the beauty of nature. They had 3 children, and their little family became the heart of the forest. And sometimes, late at night, John would look out into the woods and smile. Maybe Rex hadn't just guided a lost girl that day, but had also led his old friend to the family he never thought he'd have. A wild heart had brought them together. And from that moment on, John was never alone again.